Okay, so this video is going to be how to use either Google Slides or PowerPoint, and I'm actually going to use kind of a mixture of both to make cards that you can then put into Boom cards. And I originally had started making cards directly in Boom cards, but then I found sometimes it's actually easier to make it in either PowerPoint or Google Slides first. And then, like, if you do that, sometimes with a little bit of extra work, as long as it works as a Google activity, sometimes you can make it both a Google activity and a Boom cards kind of simultaneously, so you have two different versions of the same activity, and you can either use it in Google Slides or you can use it in Boom cards, just whatever is applicable to your students in your classroom at the time. So I just wanted to kind of show you this, and you can probably hear my kids in the background now, but to do Boom cards, you can sign up for a free account for Boom cards, like a starter account. You can only make up to 5 self-made decks if you're doing that. And that's actually what I started out as, the free starter account. And I liked it so much, I could tell that I was definitely going to use it for a lot more than 5 decks. I've used it for almost everything this year. So at the end of, I think they give you like a free trial of one of the other ones. I forget which one it is, but after my free trial was up, I went ahead and signed up for the, I think it was the Power, the Power one, because I had 5 classrooms. So I signed up for the Power one, and then that way I could make as many self-made decks as I wanted. It's got an infinity sign for self-made decks. So I've used it with all of my classes, all of my students. I made them accounts so I can use the hyperplay links for them to play it instead of just the fast play links. So, and when I get into that, I'll try to show you all the different ways that they can play. And now, since I've decided to start selling Boom cards, I've upgraded my account to the Ultimate account. And when I did that, it was prorated. So what I had already paid for the Power account was taken into consideration. I think it was like $6 for me to go ahead and upgrade to the Ultimate account, because I'd had the Power account several months and then they prorated it, so I didn't have to pay for the whole year, just the part of the year that was left. So it was like $6 for me to upgrade. So I was like, why not? All right. So anyway, I'm going to go into my Google account. And I'm going to make a new, I'm going to go to my geometry folder. I'm going to make it a new geometry activity. Don't really know what I'm going to do yet, but we will figure that out. So I'm going to go to New and Google Slides. And I'm going to delete off everything that is already in here. And in a Boom card deck, if you're wanting to make this activity and make the cards usable in Boom, or at least easily usable in Boom, Boom cards are 7 inches wide by 5 inches tall. So the first thing that you might want to do is go to File and go to Page Setup. And we're going to change it to a custom size. And I'm going to do 7 inches. I've already got inches chosen, so 7 by 5. Apply. So that we'll make it the right size for a Boom card, so that when I put my cards in there, they don't like look weird and they fill up the whole card, and it'll just look nice. And I'm going to name my activity. Let's do let's just say, I'm going to make this a kites activity. Kites. Properties. I'm going to call it a Google Slides activity. So that way, like if I end up using this one, I can maybe make it into both a Boom cards and a Google Slides activity at the same time. Alright, so I told you that there was a way to make backgrounds in Google Slides as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to Slide, and I'm going to go to Edit Master. And it takes you into all of the, like, the master slides, your templates. So I'm going to go down to the blank one at the bottom, which is what it's on right now, I think. And I'm going to go to duplicate. I don't want to get rid of the old blank one, but I do want to replace it. So on the new master slide that I've got here. Alright, so I'm going to go to background, and we could either choose an image, which I'll show you here in a little bit. I'll choose one of those images that I made with Corel Painter. Or you can go to color. You can choose a solid color, or you can go over here to gradient, which I like the gradients a lot. And they have some preset gradients on here. Or you can go to custom and make your own gradient. And like you might choose, I like to go from like light to dark, or from, you know, one color to another. So I am going to pick some colors that I like. I tend to go with green, and I'm going to click add, so it makes another little dot here. And I like the blue, and I'm going to add another one. And I like the purple. And, oh, actually, let's get rid of that one. I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to remove. And then my last one, I'm going to make pink. And then you can arrange them however you want so that they look kind of nice. Like that. And you can change the angle however you like it to look. I kind of like that. So you could do that. You could do radial, make it look like that. I kind of like the linear though. So, okay. So if I wanted to make a background in Google itself, you can do that and come up with some really nice backgrounds. It's not as versatile as the Corel Painter program to make backgrounds. Like, you can't just like do anything you want, but you can make some pretty cool backgrounds. So if I were going to do that, what I'll usually do is I'll usually make one template for like the directions. So I'm going to click on the shapes, and I'm going to make a rectangle, and I would maybe like make a little area here for directions. And I like to make sure that the background, like, it's like white, and then like I like to make the outline. Not quite yet. I like to make the outline black, and I like to make it thicker. So maybe something like that. So I would maybe, when I change it over to the regular slide, and I'm no longer on the background part, I would maybe make the left hand side like the title, and then I would maybe put the directions of the activity over here on the right. So I would have a template that looks like that. And then I would also want another one where this little white panel takes up more room. So I'm going to right click on that one and duplicate it, and just kind of extend my little panel out and make it bigger and make sure it's centered. I want a little bit more of my background to show. So like that. And then you can still see the background. You have a nice little border. Okay. So I'm going to do a new one because I also want to show you how to do the background that we made in Corel Painter. Hang on, honey. I'm going to make a video, okay? I love you. Honey, let's give Ian like another 15 minutes, okay? All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to background this time, and this time I'm going to choose an image, and we're going to pick one of those things that we had made in the Corel Painter. So I'm going to find my folder that they're saved in, and I have my PNGs. It has to be the PNG copy of your background that you made. And all of my thumbnails, I did something and now my thumbnails don't show up. So what I usually end up having to do is I end up usually having to open up the folder in a different window and actually open up one of these and figure out which background I want. So I'll just kind of go through my backgrounds that I've made until I find one that I like. And let's use this one that we made earlier. So this is McKelvey background 198. So that's number 198. So I'm going to go in here and choose the one that's 198. I don't know what I did to where my templates don't show up anymore, but it's annoying and I wish I could fix it. Alright, so now I'm going to click done, and I want a panel for directions, and I also want a panel for the cards themselves. So I'm just going to come over here and right click and copy this little rectangle I made earlier and paste it. And I'm going to duplicate that layout. And I'm going to get rid of this panel. And I'm going to copy this other panel and paste it. Alright, so these are like our layouts that we've made. So now that I've done that, I can close this out. And now if I choose layout, all of those new layouts that I made are right here. Okay, so whichever one you want to go with, I usually make my first slide directions. So I would choose the panel that had the little area for directions. And then slide. And then the rest of my slides I will usually make with the bigger panel where I can put my problem and or like whatever you want to go on the boom cards. I would put a math problem, you could put a grammar problem, whatever kind of problem you want to put in there. So over here on the directions, we might put a text box, and I like Century Gothic, Mystery Quest, Oswald, Architect's Daughter. Those are a couple of fonts that I use a lot that I really like. But you know, you can go through here and choose whichever ones that you want. You can go to more fonts. And they have like a whole list of fonts that you can look through, and you can like choose one and you can put it in your fonts so that it's available for you to choose. I've already done that with some of these, so I like to do some of my headings with Mystery Quest. And I'm going to make it bigger and center it. Directions, and I'm not really sure what my directions are going to be yet, so I'm just kind of making an area for them. And I'm going to go down in size there. These are the directions, and I would come back later and fix that up once I knew what I was actually going to do with that. So then I might come over here to this card, and I might... You can use your shapes. This is going to be a geometry problem, so I would definitely use some shapes. And sometimes in Google Slides, I kind of feel like Google Slides has less shape choices than PowerPoint. So sometimes if I'm not seeing the particular shape that I want, I might open up PowerPoint. And this is why I say I kind of go back and forth between the two. Alright, PowerPoint you have to select everything for it to select, not just part of it. That's kind of annoying. There's some things that annoy me about PowerPoint, which is why I use Google Slides a lot. So let's see, I'm going to insert a shape, and let's see if I got anything that will have this, but all four sides are the same, and I don't think I can make them not equal, so that's not really a kite. I might have to hand draw the kite. Okay, so if neither one has the shape that you want, we can go to this little line tool here, and I'm going to do a polyline because I need to draw a kite. So I want two of the sides to be equal length. I'm going to try to make those equal length. And then the other two sides are going to be different from the first two, but equal to each other. So that looks kind of kite-like. And if I need to change it, I can double click on it, and if I need to adjust any of these to make it look more like whatever shape that I want, I can do that. You can kind of rotate it. Sometimes if you turn it, you can tell if you've got something funky going on. I'm thinking this needs to go just a hair that way. Okay, that looks kind of like kite-like. And I'm going to make it a bigger outline. Alright, so I would maybe put a problem on here, and I would maybe put a text box up here. And sometimes I really like some of my headings to be white on black because I feel like it pops and I feel like it's easy to read. So I might change my font and the size, and I might make the font white, and I might center it, and I might make the background black. So this is a question. Alright, so I might do that. And I would put whatever other elements that I want to have on here. Okay, so I'm gonna
floating water droplets. Now, look at the refrigerator and then open it. Okay, let me help.
It's too big. If you have a text box or something and you don't want it to have a background, you can always go to the little fill bucket and choose transparent, and that way it's not gonna, like if it overlaps a little bit, it's not gonna mess anything up that you've already gotten drawn. Okay, so let's say that this is 5 on this side, and then we'll say, well, what's that side? And then this one. 8.
Carrot.
When I copy these, I'm just hitting Control C and Control V to copy and paste.
Okay.
Alright, so once I have a problem that I want to do, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I want to put an area where the students are going to be able to put their answer. So I'm just going to say x equals over here, and I'm going to say y equals. I like to make sure that they're centered on each other, so I'll use that little red line that appears. I'll do that, and then they'll be centered on each other.
I did something.
You can line up your elements. And then I'm going to put a shape there. I like to use either the rectangle or this one that's kind of curved to make answer blanks. And I like to make, you can make the border color whatever you want. I like to make the answer blanks on 2, and I like to make them dotted because I just feel like that looks good. So I'm going to Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then I'm going to make sure that it's lined up on both the answer blank above it and the y equals. So I can make sure that all lines up. Okay, so I would go through and I would make a bunch of cards that look like this. So let's pretend that I am making lots of cards. I could do, if I wanted to make one kind of similar to this, I could copy and paste it, and then I can go in and change my other elements and make it a different problem. So I'm just going to pretend like I've done a bunch. Okay. And let's say that on one of these I'm going to make it multiple choice.
15 more minutes.
He's got about 5 more minutes now, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so once you have a bunch of cards made and you've got all your problems or all your questions or whatever you want to ask the students, most of the time I'll just leave this direction card in here and I will make a separate, like a separate one for Boom, but you know, whatever you want to do with that, I can go ahead and use that as well. So, and this is another area where I like to use PowerPoint in combination with Google Slides, because I want all of these slides to be PNG files to be able to upload into Boom as the backgrounds for all of my cards. But I have not figured out a way to make the entire Google Slides, the entire file, all PNGs at one time. Like if you go to File and then Download PNG, it only does one card at a time, which if you have a lot of them can be very tedious. So I'm going to go to McKelvey Classroom. I'm going to choose where I want to save this. And I'm going to make a new folder. I would put all of my files that have to do with like whatever deck I'm working on. I would make a new file for that and then throw all of my files in there. I would throw you know, any preview files. I would throw my PowerPoints in there. Whatever files I make for it, I'm going to throw in there. So let's make this number 1. So if you save them this way, if you save them as PNGs this way, you have to click on the next one and go back into File and go back to Download and go back to PNG, and you'd have to do each and every one individually, which I find is very tedious and very annoying, especially if you have like a Google Slides that has like 30 different cards on it or 30 different questions. That can just take a long time. So instead of doing that, if you go to File and click Download and download it as a PowerPoint first, and then I'm just going to save it in that same folder, the Properties of Kites folder that I just made. I'm going to save it as a PowerPoint. And then when my PowerPoint file is like comes down here, I'm going to open it up in PowerPoint. Come over here. See. Oh, it's okay. So once all of those are opened up in PowerPoint, now that's a PowerPoint version, and I like to make stuff in Google Slides because I just am more familiar with it and I feel more comfortable with it, and I just like the ease of the tools and the user friendliness. But there are some functions that PowerPoint has that Google Slides does not. So I just clicked the edit button so that it would let me do stuff. And now I'm going to go to File, Export, Change File Type, PNG. Okay, and I'm going to choose that same folder, the Properties of Kites folder that I made earlier. And I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. And then it's going to ask me, which slides do you want to export? And I'm going to say all of them, because PowerPoint will do all the slides at the same time, and it's so much better than having to do them one at a time individually, especially if you have a large deck. Alright, so it tells me that they've all been saved in there, so I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to open up, that's not what I'm going to open up, I'm going to open up my Windows file thingy, and I'm going to go into the folder that I made earlier. It was in Teacher Pay Teacher Text. Yes, Ian, can you switch it to her now? Can she have a turn? Alright, let him throw the boomerang one more time, okay? And then it's your turn. Ian, when you get done throwing the boomerang, can you switch it to her? Yes, ma'am? Okay. Thank you. Alright, so where did I say that? I said that it's Properties of Kites. So we go in there, and there is a folder, and it has all of the slides. And if I had 30 slides in my deck, it would have 30 slides in here. So that is very handy. So now I have a PNG of every single slide that I made. And right now that they're mostly the same, but this is just a demonstration so that they would all, if I were doing this like actually, they would all be different and it would take me a lot longer than this to do it. Carolyn, he's almost done. He's going to switch it to you if you don't throw a fit, okay? Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to go over to Boom. And so let's see. So like I said, there's different kinds of Boom accounts. I would definitely just start with the free one to make sure that you like it and to make sure it's something that you're interested in before upgrading to a different account. But like I said, I upgraded to the Power account, and then when I started making decks to sell, I upgraded to the Ultimate so that I could sell it. So I'm just going to sign in to my account. And I'm going to go to Studio. Studio is where you're going to go whenever you make decks for yourself. You can go to classes and you can put all of your students in a class, and so that way all of your students have a Boom Learning account so that their work is there for you. And like once you have if you have a paid account and you have your students in classes, it will actually track all of the data and it'll tell you like which decks they've done and what their grade was, and it's self-checking and it gives you all the data. If you just stay with the free version of the account, you can still use fast pins and it still gives your students immediate feedback, and the students can immediately see whether they've gotten them right or wrong, but it doesn't save the data for you as the teacher unless you have a paid account. All right, so you can view all the decks that you have in your library. You can go to reports. You know, if you do have that student data, you can go into reports and look at all the student data. You can go to the store, and there are tons and tons of free decks in the store. So if there's something that you're wanting to do and you're not sure if you want to spend the time to make it, sometimes you can go to the store and search for a free one, and somebody might have one out there that is exactly what you are looking for. But I'm going to go into the studio right now, and I'm going to go down to Make Decks. And the first time I made a deck, I really wish that I had watched a tutorial, because I find that even though I am totally in love with Boom, as a new user, it was really hard for me to figure out how to make a deck correctly and how to use the different elements, because I didn't have a lot of explanation. So after I tried to make a deck my first couple times, I ended up, and I did go back and watch several videos, and that helped a lot. So I'm going to go to decks, and I'm going to go to new deck. I'm the kind of person that jumps in without reading the directions first and then goes back to the directions when I can't figure it out. So the first card that's up here is the template card. You do not want to start making your stuff on the template card and then try to figure out how to make new cards out of it. Okay, so the template card is basically like where you would put your background, or where you want to put stuff that's going to show up on every single card. So if I were making things directly in Boom, this is where I would put my background. So I would go to background image, and I would go to upload, and I would upload whatever background that I want. But since we've already made cards in Google Slides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the file where I have all those slides that we had, we made them in Google Slides, then we put them in PowerPoint, and we exported them as PNGs. So I'm going to go to those, and I'm going to upload them into my Boom account. Properties of kites, and then the folder that has all the slides. So if you had rather a large deck, I think that if you're uploading PNGs all at the same time, there's like a maximum, and I think it's like 20 or 25 that you can upload all at once. So if you try to upload them and it's too many, just select like 20 at a time to upload, but 7 is no big deal. So I'm going to select all 7 and click open, and it's going to upload all of them at the same time. And like I said, I think it'll do like 20 or 25 at once. So if you have a large deck, you can do them all at once, but if it's really, really super big, you might have to upload them in like 2 different batches. And sometimes it mixes them up too. Like, so you just got to pay attention to the names of these and the order. So I'm just putting them in here right now, but right now I'm on the template slide and I don't want my first card to be every card. So I'm going to go down here to this first card and I will, let's do background image and I'm going to choose my number 1 slide. And then it's there and boom. And I'm going to make another card and go back to background image and choose my number 2 card. And then I'm going to make another one and go to background image and do my number 3 card. And you could do it that way. Sometimes what I find to be helpful, like I have several cards that have this answer space right here. So what I want to do is I want to make my interactive stuff on here first, and then I can just like duplicate the card and change the background, and I won't have to keep making the same interactive stuff over and over again. So like let's say on this one I want it to be fill in the blank. So I've got a little dotted line here right now, but right now it's just a picture. It's not interactive. It's just a space for me to put something interactive. So if I want my students to actually be able to fill it in, I have to do a fill in the blank. So I'm going to grab this, I'm going to click on it and drag it over, and it's going to make a little rectangle, and I'm going to resize it to where it's like the same size as my little dotted line that's part of my picture. I'm going to go to border, and I want it to be a little bit curved if I can. So I'm going to change the radius to 11. And then so I like to do that so it kind of matches the picture of the spot that I put. All right, so then I will want to double tap to edit my answer. And so like on this kite, X is going to be 5. So I'm going to double tap that and I'm going to put 5. Now there's several different options that you can choose here. If you choose numeric, I started out choosing numeric for numerical answers, but if 5 was the answer, if a positive 5 was the answer and you choose numeric, it would take either a positive or a negative 5, which is not always the correct answer. Just because it's 5 does not mean it's necessarily could be either positive or negative. So I stopped using numeric unless it actually could be both positive and negative. Sometimes I'll click ignore white space so that if they, put an extra space in there, it's no big deal. You can make it case sensitive if you want. You can make it open response, but if you do make it open response, it's not going to be self-checking. Okay, for it to be self-checking, you have to be able to actually tell Boom what the answers are. So you can change the font, you can change the alignment, you can change the font size. A lot of times I'll make the font size like somewhere between 30 and 60. You can change the font color if you want it to be a different color. And all of this applies. So if I wanted multiple answers to be able to be chosen, like sometimes they might say the same answer several different ways, so you can you can put multiple answers in there. If I just wanted to say 5, I could do that. So there's a couple different ways that you could accept answers, like, put whatever answers you think the student might put there that are correct, and it will take any of the answers that you type in. Yeah. So I'm going to close that out, and now I've got this little space, and I can, if I want to keep the same like font size and font color and all that stuff, while I've got this selected, I can just click duplicate, and it will make another one exactly like it, so that all of my font changes are still the same, and then I can just go in, double tap, X out of these, and change the answers. So like if I want this to be 8, submit. Maybe 8.0, maybe they might spell out the word 8. Whatever you want to be able to accept as an answer. And all of the rest of your font choices are still here. Okay, so that is a fill in the blank. If I wanted to preview it, I could click preview, and it's got the little cursor there for me, and I could just test it to make sure that it's going to work right. Oh, there we go. Alright, so that was going to look right. Alright. So if I knew I was going to have lots of cards that look like that are going to have this same little interactive answer fill in the blank piece, I might duplicate, instead of adding a new card, I might duplicate that card. And since that's going to be card number 5, I'm going to move it down here, and on the background, I would just change the background to the next card. So I would put in slide 5, and it would just change the background. I know it's the same background because I basically copied that card like 20 times, but it would just change the background, and then these little answer spaces would be in the same spot. So as long as in my drawing, my little X equals and the little dotted line was in the same spot, these would be already where I needed them. If they weren't where I needed them, I could slide them wherever I want, but then that way, all my font choices are still there, and I would just have to double click and change the answers. I would just have to X these out and put in my new answers. And all my font choices would still be there. If you want to have a slide that has like maybe some multiple choice, you could drag in a multiple choice box, and this can be resized. If you want to change the, like maybe you want to make it one column with, or one row with 4 columns, you can change the number of columns. So if I wanted one column with 4 rows, I could change that down here, so you can just change it whatever. If I wanted, let's say I wanted 2 of those, but let's say I wanted more than 4 choices, I could click on one of them and click duplicate, and I can duplicate however many times I want, and it's going to add more choices in here. If I wanted to take out choices, I could click that little unlock button and then click delete. I could click unlock and delete. Unlock and delete out the ones that I don't want. So I could add choices, I could delete choices, whatever you want to do. If you want to change the background color, you can. I'm going to change the text on here. Let's say x equals 5, y equals 8 is the correct answer. And this will, if you use the multiple choice tool, it will mix it up and make it random. So this is not always going to be on the left, and this is not always going to be on the right. It will mix it up for you if you use the multiple choice tool or the MultiPick tool. So the wrong answer, let's say y equals 8, and oops, I'll say x equals 8 and y equals 5. All right, so when I, you know, if the student is using this right now, this left-hand one is highlighted in green. I don't know if you can see it very well, so I'm going to go back and change the background to something you can see. Okay, so that's a little bit easier to see. You can see that it's highlighted in green. Now, if I wanted to switch the answers, I could click on that one. I could make it wrong. I could click on this one and make it correct. So if I wanted to switch them, I could. But if you just wanted to leave it the way it is and just always put the correct answer in the first spot, that's fine too, because it's going to mix it up for you. Boom will mix it up, as long as you're using the multiple choice tool. All right, so let's add another card and make this is going to be slide 5. So I'm going to go background, and let's just add one of these slides in here. Let's say, and actually, let me go back to this one. I'm going to do a different type of question. All right, so let's say I wanted to do multiple choice, but I wanted my answers to be pictures and not like just me typing on here. So I could do the MultiPick tool, and then I could click on that, and any pictures that I've uploaded in here could be answers. Like, let's just say I want to choose some of these pictures, and these don't go with this problem, but it doesn't really matter. This is just a demonstration. So any pictures that you've uploaded, you can use as answer choices. Okay, so that's pretty neat. So that's one type of question and answer, or you can use buttons. Now the multi-choice and the multi-pick, Boom will mix those up so that it will kind of just randomize it, so the correct answer will not always be in the same spot. So let's see if it'll show it to me. All right, I forget which one was correct. All right, so that time it was right there. So it was in a different spot than when I put it. All right, so let me get rid of this. You could also use buttons, and then you could like make your own buttons. But if you do buttons, it will not randomize the buttons for you. The button will just be wherever you put the button. So like you could do x equals 5, y equals 8. And then you could change the color, you could change the border, you can make the border thicker, you could change the color if you wanted to. And then we could, if we wanted to make another button, we could duplicate that and make another button. And let's say this time we say y equals 8, or x equals 8 and y equals 5. So the thing is, if you're doing buttons, right now, let me change the background back to white so it's easier to tell what it's outlined in. Right now, these are both outlined in green, so they're both being counted as correct. So the default when you make a button is for it to be correct. So the one that's wrong, you would have to click on it and then go to wrong. Okay, so that way you can make your own buttons. And the only thing is Boom won't randomize them. They'll always be in the same spot that you put them in. But that way your student can click on whichever one you want. So let me go back here and let's make another one. Let's see. You can just drag and drop images. So if I just had an image on here and I wanted to make an image a correct answer, so like this, and then I could drag another image in here and say this. All right, so for kites, diagonals are perpendicular. So right now, they are just pictures. They're just images. So you can insert them in here as images and leave them as images. Or you could even like turn that into a button. You could make that correct and you could make that one wrong. And then when I go to preview, I could click on it. Okay. Another thing that you could do, I'm going to take off the correct. I'm going to take off the wrong. Another thing that you could do is you could make them draggable. So while I have it highlighted, I can make that draggable. Let me make it to where you can see that. So draggable. And I can make this one draggable, and you can make drag and drops for your students. So if you make things draggable, you're also going to want to make a drop zone. So what I'll usually do for a drop zone is I'll pull over a text box, and I will sometimes just delete out whatever's in there, and I just want to make a border so my students can see it and they know that there's going to be a drop zone there. And you might change the width, and I like to make my drop zones dotted lines. So you can leave it blank, or you can maybe put some text in here and you can say drag and drop your answer here. And then be sure to click drop zone. So that way you can drop these in here. Now you have to tell it which one is the correct answer. So whichever one, like right now these are both draggable, but they're not linked to the drop zone. So whichever one is the correct answer, you're going to want to drag that little hand over and put it on the flag. So now it's linked. So now when I go to preview, If I try to drag this one over here and submit, that's wrong. So it'll tell me it's wrong and it's going to put it back over here. If I drag this one in here and submit, it'll tell me it's right. Okay, so let's do another question type. You can make text boxes. You can make text boxes clickable answers. Equals 5, y equals 7. You can play with the font, you can play with the alignment, whatever you want to do. But I can make this correct, and then I could duplicate it and make this one wrong, and it turns it into a button. That should have been 8. I don't know why I keep trying to make that 7. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. All right, so you could just make a text box into a clickable answer. So if I choose this one now when I hover over it, I can see it. Not that one, yes, that one. And if you want your students to be able to see it even better, you can put a border around it. So you can choose whatever color you want, whatever size you want. You can just leave it rectangular. You can give it like a radius and make the edges a little curved if you want to. Let's make this one a different color. I'll make that one 6, so let's make this radius 6. Also, you can make it a dotted line if you want to, but then it's just a little bit easier for your students to see, whatever you want it to look like. So you can use text boxes as buttons. You can write fractions if you want. I use fractions sometimes. You can add sound. I've never added sound yet. I haven't added my own sound on there yet. I haven't really played with that. And video. And this is only for certain accounts. Like if you just have a free Boom Learning account, I don't think you can add sound or video. But if you have the paid accounts, I think it allows you to do that. You can also add Caption Pics, which is where you put a picture, but then you also caption it, and they're linked. This is a trapezoid. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this one, and we'll bring this one up. So you can make a caption pic. If you want that to be a selectable answer choice, you can just go up here and click correct or wrong, and all of a sudden it becomes clickable. So you can make just about anything an answer choice. You can make a text box an image choice, a button an image or an answer choice. You can make an image an answer choice. You can make the multiple choice or the multiple pictures. Okay, so lots of different things can be answer choices. If you want to do like an open response, a lot of times in English, you might want them to put something in their own words. You can do a fill in the blank. I'm going to double tap that, and then we can say open response. Okay, and I might make a border around it so that it will show up and my students will be able to see it. Let's make it purple. And then I would maybe put some directions above that. Let's say describe the shape in your own words. Now the thing is, if you do this, if you make it to where it's open response, you are probably going to have to go in there and grade it yourself. It's going to be like a manual grade. It's not going to auto grade it. All right, so I'm going to put, I'm going to see if it lets me put an answer in here too. So I'm going to say, kites are awesome. Maybe my student is not really describing kites in mathematical terms. Maybe they're just doing that. So I'm going to put that as an answer. And let's see what happens. So I'm going to go to preview, and it should let me put in whatever I want, like kites have 2 pairs of congruent consecutive sides. And then it will submit the answer. And then on your end as a teacher, it would tell you that you have something to grade. Now, I know that that's true on the paid accounts. I don't know if that would be true on the free account. So you probably have to test it. So let me go back and go back into that. And I want to see if I put kites are awesome, if it will auto grade it. I don't know. Let's see. Kites are awesome. It just says answer submitted. So I don't know. Anyway, so that is an option. You can do free response. It just has to be teacher graded if you do that. Or if you don't want it to be free response, if there's several different correct answers, you could like list them all out in here. So kites have 2 pairs of congruent consecutive sides. The only thing is like if the student missed a period, or if the student like worded this slightly different, it wouldn't count it if you have it to where it's not open response. And I could put in like lots of different answers. Kites have perpendicular diagonals. As many as you want. Okay, you can play with it, around with that. So I think that is kind of a summary of the different kinds of answer choices. So I'm going to go into a boom card that I've already made. And let's do this one. So when you've made your boom card, there's a couple different things that you can do. You can go down to where it has like this little... Now I put this in here, it's got like the name of your boom card, but when you first make a boom card deck, it's going to say untitled. So you can click on there. You can upload an image to be like your like cover. And I make mine in Canva. You can, upload whatever image you want, but it looks better if they're square. So I use the Instagram posts in Canva and just made a design like a template, and just go into my template and change it to kind of match my deck that I'm making. You can name your deck here. You can choose the grade levels. You can put keywords. And if you decide to sell your boom cards at some point, these are going to be very important because it's going to make your boom cards searchable for other people. You can set the price if you've got them for sale. You can tell it to randomize a certain number of cards. You can take off randomize, and then it won't mix the cards up. It will just put them in whatever order you put them in. I like to make my first few cards, I like to make a title page, and then I like to make, some kind of practice cards that maybe have some scaffolding, maybe have some reminders of things I want students to remember. So the first few cards, like this one, it has the definition of concave and the definition of convex and a regular polygon. So it's got some hints and some scaffolding, like I'm still asking students questions on here, but it's going to help remind them of what to do. So I like to put those up near the front. And then I won't have those ones randomized because I always want those to pop up first so that my students are reminded of what to do and the different properties that we're learning about. So you can tell it how many that you don't want it to shuffle. And then after it does the first 7 cards, everything after that will be all mixed up and shuffled. Okay, you can tell it cards per play. The default number of cards that it will play is 20. So if you have less than that, it's going to play them all. If you have exactly 20, it will play them all. If you have more than that, like I have 43 cards in here. So if I don't specify 43, it would only play 20. So there would be some cards that my students would not see. I want them to see all of them, so I changed that to 43. And then there's also the option of flow magic, which would be a whole nother video in and of itself. So if you want to see that, let me know and I can show you how to use that. It's actually really fun and you can make games and stuff with that. Subject, choose your subject. About, you can kind of give a little description of your activity. If you go to sell your boom cards, you're going to want to definitely do that. If you used any fonts or any clip art or anything in your deck, you're going to want to make sure to put that in the acknowledgments. And if you go to sell the deck, you're going to want to make sure that you have commercial licenses for any fonts that you use, or any backgrounds that you use that you didn't make yourself, or any clip art that you use that you didn't make yourself. Like anything that you use that you didn't make yourself, you're going to want to make sure you have a commercial license and that you're giving credit for that. Okay, so that's kind of a description of that. And then I'm just going to preview. Let's start from the beginning. Preview the whole deck so that you can just kind of see what's going on. Why is it taking so long? Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning. So preview. I like to have a title page, and I like to put a button over my title page. My first, I don't even know how many boom decks, I did not do that, and you would just have to click next. But I started making it to where the first page just has a giant button. So anywhere I click on here, it's going to say it's right and go to the next one, because I figured that was more user friendly. So I have some drag and drop choices on here. Composed of 3 or more segments. Simple, does not intersect itself. And you can just test it. So I have some fill in the choice options here. That's 3 sides, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Concave. Convex, this is one where I've used images as answer choices. So I just have a picture of my shape, and I made this one wrong and this one correct. All right, so this is one where I have an image. This is an image that I had copied and pasted into Boom. And then I put little clear buttons. I made the background transparent and I made the border transparent, but I just put buttons over the image to make it to where I can choose them. So regular polygon has all sides congruent and all angles congruent. And then these are, you can either make them button, I could have made buttons, but I think this is actually a picture, an image. The yes and the no are actually part of the image. And I just put a clear button over it and made this one correct and the other one wrong. Anyway, so see if I have any different answer types in here. I have clear buttons over all of this. This is like a picture, like the triangle, quadrilateral, pentagon. All that is part of a picture, and then I just put a clear button over it so that I can choose them. But you'll want to go through your whole deck and test it to make sure it's going to work out okay for your students. I'm not going to make you watch me test this whole thing. I was just checking to see if there were any different answer types. Okay, so that's that whole deck. So if you can think of anything else that you have questions on that you would like to see, let me know. I know this video is already getting super long. So if you think of anything else that I didn't show you in here, or if you want to see something made with Flow Magic, let me know and I can make another video.